Hi, I'm Erik Giesa. I'm with Tempered Networks, and one of the best things about my job at Tempered is getting to work with customers like Tom Walker from Penn State. And we'll just have Tom tell his story because it's pretty cool, it's compelling, and it's pretty innovative. So, Tom, but before we get to your story, give us a little bit of background on yourself, Penn State, what you do there.
My name is Tom Walker. I work for the Facility Automation Services Group. We manage the network infrastructure for all of Penn State's building automation systems, utilities, elevators, you name it. If it's in a building, we develop the network infrastructure for that equipment to communicate back to the application at our main data center.
And so your guys' mission ultimately is not only to make sure things are running smoothly, lights are on, cooling's operating appropriately, the wastewater plants are doing what they need to do, elevators are working, but also it's about optimizing, right? I mean, that's the whole reason why you guys are doing this in the first place, and networking all these, building automation systems, and to figure out not only, a student project of, the carbon dioxide or carbon footprint of the building, but how to better run things over time. And so, but the scope of that is really large at a campus like Penn State and even among the Commonwealth. How many buildings do you guys have?
Right now we have roughly 300 on our primary campus. We're looking at over another 300 plus that we're going to start bringing on from all the Commonwealth locations. There's roughly 23 Commonwealth locations that we will be dealing with. And their systems vary. We have 2 buildings on one campus up to, I think the biggest one's 25 plus buildings on a campus.
Well, so over 600 overall, 640 or something?
It'll be over roughly 630-ish some odd buildings, about 41 million square feet of space that we'll be managing under one infrastructure.
Wow. Okay, and how big is your staff to network, connect, protect all of that?
I have 4 sysadmins and 2 network integrity analysts.
It's not a huge staff,
No.
and it's a big scope. Because I imagine that it's these buildings. First of all, the environment itself. It's a flat L2 network right now. It's going to be migrating, or is in the process of migrating to an L3 network. Is that accurate?
Yes.
Correct,
Yeah. We're currently the original infrastructure was built as a flat layer 2 because it was piecemealed together. We were going to buildings that didn't have any type of connectivity, so there wasn't fiber in the building. There wasn't any network connectivity to it, and so we built out our fiber infrastructure building to building. So we were putting our own fiber in the ground, building to building. It was all daisy chained together, and it ended up being a large flat layer 2 /22 network.
Okay. So the problems that you were encountering, first of all, the network was officially owned by IT. Totally different, technologies, protocols, those types of things. You're using the same network. What were some of the problems or challenges you were having?
Biggest issue was downtimes. We don't operate the same downtime periods. I can actually shut down the whole network in the middle of the day. A building's not going to change its footprint in a small amount of time. So I can do a reboot middle of the day, doesn't matter. For users, that's a bigger issue. You can't reboot the user network in the middle of the day.
Right.
So they tend to have these maintenance windows outside, which would be like a 5 to 7 window. Well, that's the time that we're starting up buildings, starting up plants, trying to start cooling the buildings down or heating them up depending on the season. So their maintenance window really didn't fit with our way of operating.
Wow, that's interesting. I never thought of that and the implications of that. But when it was the downtime, and either planned or unplanned.
Yep.
But there was also this issue. You guys were under a big capital campaign, a lot of new construction, retrofit, and of course the legacy stuff you still had to contend with. It was a bit chaotic, and when you're bringing up systems, BACnet will behave in a certain way and could create unintended consequences that affect downtime. What were some of those experiences like the backnet storms or broadcast storms, or?
Yeah, we with our two integrity analysts, they're constantly watching our traffic. We were sitting at 90,000 packets when I first started at the university about 5 years ago. We've actually been able to bring that number down into, we're sitting at right about 22,000 packets per hour on average on a given day. But even like today, during the conference here, we were back in the back of the room troubleshooting over our phone because we had a bunch of broadcast storms happening. We come to find out somebody's doing work over at the Bryce Jordan Center today and didn't notify anybody. So we're getting hit with broadcast storms from that building because they don't know the intricacies of how to properly install a new controller on the network and make sure that everything is configured, that they've got all the proper COV settings, they got the proper configurations put in to not hammer the network.
Right, okay. And so then when we were looking for a solution, because you had all, a flat L2 network, the building automation control systems are accessible to everything. There's no segmentation, no isolation. You're experiencing these broadcast storms. What were some of the solutions you were looking at to try and solve this, connectivity, connect these things and protect them?
We went through a lot of different variations. We went through looking at a fully routed core network and putting ACLs on the routers and between the networks. We also looked at MAC filtering. And we looked at a bunch of different VPN firewalls and all those types of solutions, but they don't scale well. When you start scaling at 600 buildings, you start seeing a significant drawback to some of the different technologies. And so we were looking for a solution that didn't impact the infrastructure to force me to go to a 10 gig pipe on the outside just to be able to connect all my buildings together.
Right, right. And so, and scale isn't just about the performance, but it's also about the people and the process, what would be required to implement and maintain those technologies.
Yeah, how many people is it going to take me to manage a full, port Knox was one of the solutions we looked at. And yeah, it's got a simple interface, but it's still a lot of management in each port. And what happens at 3 a.m. in the morning? I don't want to get that 3 a.m. phone call to basically change a MAC address because they got to replace a controller out in the field.
Right.
I don't want that. I want to be able to sleep at night and, enjoy my life a little bit outside of work.
Okay. Yeah, for sure. I mean, you want to be able to go home at night and feel, hey, job well done, and not be bothered, for sure. Yeah. So when you came across Tempered, what was it that, intrigued you to take a look at, what we were up to and what we could do for, in the hands of somebody like you, who's an innovative guy and has a small team. What was that experience like, and what did you do, and how did you come about us?
It's actually a really funny conversation. I was in a conference room, listened to a sales guy go on about all of his tools and things that he says he can help our network and everything, and I was half listening to him throughout most of the conversation, and he'll get a kick out of this conversation. But one word that came out of it was, I heard the word HIP, and I had no idea what is HIP. What does that mean? And so I went out on the internet, started researching HIP technology, and I'm like, this is what we need. This is something we've been looking for. And so I did some more research and found Tempered's website and their history and dug into it pretty deep. And I called the sales guy back and I said, I need you to put me in touch with Tempered Networks. And he goes, how do you know Tempered? And I said, because I did my homework. I went out and researched what they do and what their product can provide to us. I want it. So he set up the conversation, and the sales guy and I sat down, and it was kind of funny. We were sitting in my office and we were all talking, and we got through halfway through the presentation, and I just started giggling. And the other guys in the room were laughing too, because it was so easy. It's a very easy solution to implement, something that it doesn't take rocket science to put this together. You don't have to be a network expert. You don't have to really be that involved. It's very easy. You're very user intuitive. one of the things we found, we were able to put the solution together. They sent us the box and we put everything together and had it up and running without any engineering support to start with.
Wow.
So,
And that means a lot when you've got a small staff with a huge scope and responsibility, and a lot of people depending on you. Fascinating. So, you had estimated with traditional IT technologies, it might take 3 to 5 days per building. And that first week that you started to implement Tempered, how much were you able to cover? What were you able to do? What was that like?
we were able to do 50 buildings in roughly, I think it ended up being like 5 days. I mean, it was almost 10 buildings per day. Now we hit that pretty hard. We had some
Motivated.
goals. We were motivated. We wanted to prove the solution. I got on the team and we just went at it. And it was surprising how fast they were able to pick up the technology, because now I'm dealing with an install group that's separate from my group. I still manage that group, but it was a different group doing the install process. So teaching them the product and how it works, and them being able to install it, especially that quickly, that fast. And now we've slowly expanded from that. We're at about 100 some odd buildings right now that are deployed, but that was due to a change on the back end. Once my management saw the capabilities of this, and I started explaining some of the issues we have with the Commonwealths connecting to us and everything, they're like, "You're going to change your direction." And so now we've having this same conversation with all these Commonwealth locations. So anything that is currently punching a hole through my firewall is getting a hip switch put in front of it to block the access and minimize our liability, basically, from the outside, because I have over 200 rules in my firewall to manage all those different connections. And now I can put one single rule in for the hip, and that's it.
Since you've deployed, what's been your experience like at home? I mean, is it, are you still being woken up at 3 a.m. maybe occasionally, but not as much, or is it?
I have kids, so I'm always going to be woken up at the middle of the night.
But for work
But
purposes,
for work purposes, it's definitely helped. Long term, we're now much more stable in our network infrastructure. We have far fewer calls. We have far fewer outages. My sysadmin and I were getting calls almost every single day. We didn't go a night that one of us didn't get a call about something. And now it's like, I can't remember the last time I was called, and kind of thing. So it's been really good for the team as a whole, and even our techs who do our response times, they have noticed the significant impact that go out and reset a controller out in the building because it's now gone offline. We're not getting that anymore.
That's cool.